Israel has done multiple assassinations and tensions are high between Israel and Iran. We could be headed to World War III. Oh, everyone's going to get drafted. It's going to be horrible. No, I don't think so. Nothing ever happens. It's just going to continue with a slow burn, back and forth. There's not going to be World War III anytime soon. Sorry for all the preppers out there, but it's not going to happen. You're not going to die in a spectacular nuclear war. You'll probably die of cancer or heart disease. Sorry to break the news to you, but that's just the reality. And Israel itself is trying to provoke a war with Iran. Specifically, they want United States Christians to fight a war with Iran. But I think that ship has sailed. I think it's definitely too late for that. A little background. Netanyahu, he's a huge, obviously, Zionist, but more than that, he has these messianic visions of building the third temple and the Jewish Messiah returning, which we Christians realize the Jewish Messiah has already returned. It was Jesus. The next one will be the Antichrist. But Netanyahu realizes that time is really growing short for this whole vision that some of the ultra-Orthodox Jews have about how they see the future planning out. And they're getting really nervous. And Netanyahu, he's trying to poke things along. Come on, Iran, attack me. Come on, attack me so I can get the United States involved. But the problem is the United States now in 2024 is not the United States of like 1980. That ship has sailed. And ironically, it has to do with a lot of groups that originate from Israel. They've helped change much of America and the West. For good or bad, yeah, you could argue that. But a lot of this mass immigration has been directed by groups that are very friendly towards Israel. And the idea was, we can't have any white nations anymore because, think of Nazi Germany. So if we flood these nations with the third world, then they won't be a threat to us. Never again will we have a Nazi Germany. Otherwise, we can never be sure. So this is the way to be sure. If we keep the people kind of dumbed down, this is what we're going to do. And they've been very successful with that. But there's not like this 4D chess thinking, because they had an important part they missed is, wait a minute, are these countries, once we flood them with the third world, are they still going to support us unconditionally? Thinking, we're so special, we're the special of God's eye, they have to defend us. Are they still going to think that? And the answer is no. The people that think that we got to put Israel first are primarily white Christian boomers, specific evangelicals, and newsflash, they're dying off. They're dying off across the entire West. It's just based on demographics. And the new generation, which tends to be much more brown, they don't give a shit about all that. They don't give a shit like, Jews are God's special people and we need to fight wars to establish their ethnic homeland. It doesn't make a lot of sense to them. They're not interested in that. And we see that in the polls in the United States. The Democrats are already facing this issue. Yeah, the top leadership of the Democratic Party is heavily Jewish and they definitely support Israel. But the base is really anti-Israel. And you saw it with the college campuses, the protest, and just in general, they see Israel as whites that are colonizing and killing the Palestinians. And their sympathies are towards the brown people, not the white people that they consider the Israelis. And so the Democrat Party right now has a huge issue. And the Republican Party, the rah-rah Israel thing that you see from Nikki Haley and Donald Trump, well, that's an older generation thing. The younger people in the Republican Party, they're very much more America first. They don't see the reason to die for Israel. They said we should put America first. And again, there's people like me. I'm not hostile towards Israel. They're fine with them having a nation. But we should put our nation first. So that's changing. So the demographic changes in the United States are going to cause problems for Israel because Israel has always relied on the United States to fund them, fund their wars, and actually fight the wars. One of the wars was against Saddam Hussein. In the 1990s, people forget the neocons They listed out a bunch of enemies of Israel they wanted to have excuses to take out. There was Iraq, there was Syria, and Iran were on the list. I think it was called Project Breakaway. And we did Iran, and we used 9/11 for that. Even though Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11, we were able to stir everyone up, wave the American flag, and attack Iraq. And we got rid of Saddam Hussein, but it's not like a nation that's friendly towards Israel. So it didn't really matter. Syria, we attempted to overthrow Assad by funding ISIS. Russia came in and supported Assad. That was a failure. And Iran, Israel's still trying to poke Iran. They want us to get in a war with Iran, but it's just not happening. And a couple of reasons for this, that this isn't going to be happening. Number one, I talked about the demographic changes in the United States, and I would say the whole West. People just don't want this type of war. Yeah, okay, maybe we will throw some cruise missiles over to Iran. So let's say Trump gets in, throws some Tomahawk missiles at Iran. No one gives a shit. All of Iran's stuff now is underground. The key stuff that they're working on is meaningless. Unless you send troops in, it's just not going to happen. And there's no way that the American public would be interested in seeing their sons and now daughters die in the sands of the Middle East. There's just no way. Unless there's a huge false flag that was blamed on Iran, that'd be the only way possible. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. So we just don't have the capability anymore. And with the third world migration, we're having a competency crisis. As we see, everything's falling apart. Things aren't working as well. And that it applies to the military too. The military, they've been using a lot of DEI practices. So it's not the military of your dad, the American military. It's very incompetent. And there's some question, could it even defeat Iran at this point? Especially because Iran, they have really close ties now to Russia and China. They're not Iraq under Saddam Hussein. They're fairly sophisticated, and they're growing more powerful every day, while every day the United States is growing weaker because of our third world transformation of our country. Eventually, we will look like a Brazil type of country. We will not be a superpower. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're definitely heading in that direction. And countries like China, Russia, and Iran, they see that. So they don't really have to hurry anything. They understand every day that they sit back, we grow weaker and they're growing stronger. And because of DEI, we can't do the top-notch research and development because we got to worry about diversity. Whereas Russia, China, and even Iran, they can hire the best people to work on things. And we can't because of racial politics. And then we have this huge financial crisis happening in the United States. The national debt is out of control, and that's coming to a head eventually. It's just going to break everything, especially as other countries are now moving off the dollar. That's huge. A lot of people, Mark Rubio was trying to threaten Saudi Arabia because of that. They understand the significance of that. And we just won't have the money anymore to fund all these wars and to fund Israel. So that is coming too. The other problem with Israel is a lot of the American Jews, especially the younger American Jews, they don't see Israel as their top project. It's a mistake to equate all Jews with Zionists. Older Jews are heavily Zionist. They're ethnic homeland and, this is for our people. But the younger Jews in America, they've been influenced by the culture, and they're like, nationalism's sort of bad. Shouldn't we have diversity? They actually do have that viewpoint. And there's been polling done that, again, the younger generation of Jews aren't just really that excited about Israel like the older people. So we're kind of in a situation now that I think Netanyahu realizes, like, oh shit, the Western countries are growing weak. If I'm going to use them to take out my enemy, it's got to happen now. It's got to happen now. In fact, it's probably too late. And I think that's what he's worried. And it is too late. I don't think there's a capability now even to do this. There's definitely not the will. And he's kind of flailing around trying to get something started, because eventually there's going to be a point where Iran has a nuclear weapon. Then it's all over. There's nothing really Israel can do, because Iran could respond with devastating force. And we're getting this alliance between Russia, China, and Iran. They have their manufacturing. They have now the top talent. Whereas the United States, we're worried about pronouns and bringing in all prisoners from Venezuela, and our cities that were nice and clean at one point, they're looking like slums. Whereas China, they're having high-speed trains. We're going in the wrong direction. The rest of the world sees it, and Israel sees it, and they're like, damn, we don't have much time to use America to fight a war. And I think it's already too late. So Israel, they're going to be isolated, and they do not have the political influence of other countries. So if you go to Russian politicians, they don't always think about Israel first because they're not being paid off by the Israeli lobby. They think about Russia first. Same with the Chinese, obviously the same with Iran. It's only America and the Western countries that the top politicians are kind of controlled by the Israeli lobby. But again, that influence is waning as the population changes. And they understand that. And they're not going to be able to bribe as easy Russians or Chinese. And so there's a sense of panic right now in Israel. That's why they're trying to spark World War III as soon as possible. But I think it's really too late. I think that ship has sailed. Talk to you guys later.